Well, Plarium's taken away some of the turn meter manipulation used to beat bosses with those hard level dungeons. I also know that many of you have decided on Fire Knight not to push yourself into the hard level at this point in time, given the sheer level of overtuning you need to do just to be able to compete in that dungeon. So here's the deal. Say you don't have a lure, say you're working on dungeon levels 1 through 25, you need that turn meter manipulation. Are there other options? Well, potentially we might have another one, and that's today's video. So let's jump right into it. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Mad Camper, and there's another video on Raid Shadow Legends and another in our series of I Built Them so you don't have to. Before we get into that, I just want to mention every morning I am doing a new series for new players and for veterans to come in and help these new players called Raid Made Easy. My goal is to give you some information on different early game topics that many new players may have questions about but don't know where to turn. I also am leaning on you as veterans of the community to leave comments in those videos of other tips and tricks based on whatever the subject is. So far, the first one had some great comments for some great assisted veteran players. I really like seeing that level of engagement. I hope you do the same with this morning's video. But today we're going to talk about a Raid Shadow Legends kind of newer champion that has flown completely under the radar. He's got some turn meter manipulation. He's an attack-based champion. We're going to find out whether he's worth building or not. His name is Lorn the Cutter. So without further ado, here is Lorn the Cutter. Frightful Frenzy attacks all enemies. Has a 75, bookable to 100% chance of placing a leech debuff and a 100% heal reduction debuff for 2 turns. Snatch into Darkness attacks one enemy. Has a 75, bookable to 100% chance of decreasing the target's turn meter by 100%. Hand Fangs attacks one enemy 3 times. Heals this champion by 15% of the damage inflicted. Alright, here we are. Damage test time, my friends. We have Magnar, we have Alika, we have Lorn. We have Lorn in the best gear of the 3 of them. They're all in Savage. I'll show you their gear. We're in Dragon 10 just so we can get a comparison. This is the Alika, 5683, 259 in Savage. We've got Lorn here, our boy. We moved him into Savage, 261, 68, 92. And then we have Magnar here, 93, 890 at 265. Probably the hardest standard AoE damage dealer among epics. I feel like that's the truth. But if it isn't, blame someone else. Alika has probably, arguably, the hardest non-conditional single target damage dealer, and situationally the hardest A1, when she gets that 50-50 chance for that second hit. So among epics. So this is a good. You know what the others can do. We're bringing Lorn in. I'm skeptical about Lorn. I'm not gonna lie to you, because he has. Because he only gets a 50% crit damage base. When they do that to epics, it's usually a big fat signal that he's not a good damage dealer. And we didn't get, this is unfair now. The Liberga didn't get a defense down, but I guess we'll see what we can do here. So that's the first hit. Then we'll do hers, and then we'll do his. This is AoE. Okay, AoE. Boom. All right. Let's see what the damages were. So, yeah, I mean, he, in spite of the fact that he's got about 2k extra attack over Alika, and Alika's doing lockout skills, so she's got some abilities on there too, but you can see that Lorn's, at least his AoE, is prioritizing the fact that he's putting leech and block heal, rather than prioritizing some damage here. It's a little disappointed, I'm not going to lie to you. Void Affinity, there's no reason. It just is what it is. So, let's go to the. I mean, that could be a War Master proc or something. So let's go to let's try his let's try the A2 next, or I guess the single target. His is A3. We'll try to put it on the same champion, but obviously death be danged. So this is his A3. Boom, 123,000. Hers, boom, 175. We're gonna have to give you a Taya. Boom, 85. So, predictably so, not a damage dealer. Can do damage, but is not a damage dealer. Not in the same way as the others. Given the near 7k attack he has versus her 5,500 versus Magnar's, I mean it's hard to compare, but he's one of the best HP champions in the game, not named Terrace. Let's try his A1s, though I suspect we're going to see probably the same thing. We're probably going to see a decent A1s, oddly enough, other than a few notable exceptions like Fennex, are pretty standard, to be honest, even among legendaries. I've done so many of these, and so often, unless they have some kind of neat extra mechanic to them, they don't really do it a whole lot. So 57, she gets one hit, 76. She's a rare exception, right? That's 76. She's already beat Magnar in her damage, and if she got that second turn, she'd be 150,000 on her A1. That's what I mean. Like, and they're 15, 30, 45. Like it's all kind of right in that realm. And you see it there. He does a little bit more than Magnar. He's got a 3-hitter. That's kind of the unique property. So we know Lorn, not a damage dealer per se. He can do damage, but he's not there to be the big badass nuker. That's fine. He's got other things in his kit, and we're going to bring those into a couple different dungeons for you. I'll also show you, this is where we'll go through his kit. I wanted to do this in this crazy gear before I went into how I standard built him for the other content. So let's take a look at his artifacts and his masteries next. All right, here's how we have him built out for this. I'm going to, after the Fire Knight, so we're going to do Scarab and Fire Knight. After the Fire Knight, I'm going to show you his infographic where I'm going to have him built slightly different. But because this is the build I recorded these fights in, I wanted to show you this build before I move on to a better, in my opinion, a better build for him, where my recommended build if you're going to use Lorn the Cutter, where we're using him. So this is the build we used him out in, getting that 100% crit rate. We tons of crit damage, 4,300 attack, 173 speed, 255 accuracy, right? So that's where we're going in the masteries. I won't actually change the masteries. I'm okay with these masteries. That's why I'm in the middle so you can see them. We're going down the left side to War Master. You could say Giant Slayer. I could say no. The reason is, even though he has a triple hitter A1, his A2 and A3 are single hit skills. So the reality is, when he's hitting, unless you're using him with a counter attack or ally attack champion, he's not getting enough turns cycled for Giant Slayer to be useful outside of Clan Boss, and we're not using him in Clan Boss. So I actually prefer War Master. If he had one more hit, if he had a 2-hitter on A2 or A3, or if he had a 4-hitter on A1, then I'd probably lean towards Giant Slayer. I call this the push, where a lot of content creators will just say, oh, he's a 3-hitter, I'm going to put him with the Giant Slayer. Again, outside of Clan Boss, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think it depends on the whole kit, and in this case, I don't feel like he does enough hits to have Giant Slayer. Anyway, so why don't we, I'm going to take him into Scarab first, then we're going to take him over to the Fire Knight, and then finally we're going to wrap it up with the infographic and then final thoughts. All right, so one of the areas I want to try to check out Lorn. Plus, you know what? I'm a man of honor. I'm a man who can admit when they might be wrong. And my last video on Skimfos Consumed, while I still am not a favorite of him, because he is supposed to be one thing and he shows up as another, and I'm never a fan of that, because you have to find a way to use a champion rather than use the natural skill set they're supposed to be given to you. But I will admit, hey, this guy had some opportunity, so I brought him in with you. So we've got Lorn here with Skimfos, Allure, Coldheart, and our good old friend Claude. And this is a team we're going to put up against the floor 100 Scarab King. It's not pretty, but it is effective. And let's just watch this video go with Lorn. I want to put this out. I'm going to do a couple videos in one gear set, and then of course I'm going to do his damage testing. Was in a different gear set, so I'll show you this gear set after this video and before we take him into the next content. Just kind of, I don't know, break it up, I guess. I don't know, something or other. But here we are in this land now. This is a tough one to get through just because there's a bunch of those stupid war chiefs that are best used against you than rather on your team. But we got through that pretty safe. Now, how we are making this work is everyone has one blood shield accessory. So even when there's no shield up from our shield champion Claude, we still are able to do damage without him doing the counter attack. So that's just a nice, easy way to kind of cheat the system. Now, the whole goal here is if the Scarab takes a turn, we're kind of safe with what the champions we have. We have them with enough survivability. I've built them out to be survivable to take a hit. We have big shields up from our Claude, which is going to help that. We have some heals to make that easy. But our goal here is to not let him take a turn. And that's why we have all these champions. Now, unfortunately, this Scarab is Force Affinity, which is a bit of a pain in the butt because we're going to get a lot of weak hits from two of our champions that are manipulating turn meter, that is Allure and Lorn. But you can see it's going to happen. Now, I'm not going to make you watch through the whole thing. There is a moment when he does actually take a hit here. We also have our Cold Heart in Destroy gear that's going to slowly whittle away at that extra shield so that we can move up. Now, 78 turns is what I do with my Euros. But if you don't have a Euros, this is how you're going to get a Euros, right? Is until you can get enough fragments to get that champion. This is going to be an easy way to run through these. So I thought, yeah, there it is right there. So let's go back here. You see he's going to get a turn. We just had too many weak hits, but we're survived because even with all those hits, we had that shield up. We were able to take care of it, and now we're right back to business as usual. He now has a speed buff on him, but I don't think it... I think it gets one more hit on us, but we're still able to manipulate that turn meter enough. So, in a case like this, absolutely. You just need a turn meter champion. He's going to help you. The other things that Lorn brings to this fight that are very useful is that leech. That leech buff or debuff helps you heal your team. So we took some damage, but now with leech, we're able to heal ourselves right back up, which is just a nice, easy way to do it. You see there, perfect timing. We're taking that turn meter away from Skimfos, who is admittedly one of the heroes of this comp because he has a 3-turn cooldown and can steal that. See, there's another hit coming. No, there you go. Skimfos again. And I knew it was going to happen. I had to put him in this video because of the last video and the controversy about me not... Oh, see, we did lose one more. This isn't too big of a deal because Allure's A1, even when she's taunted, is going to reduce turn meter. And it's only a 1 turn, so we do get through it pretty easy here. And as you can see, it's not fast. It's 200 turns. But, it's 3 minutes, 57 seconds. It's actually the best time I've done, even though the other one did less turns. This was quicker, pretty easy. The gear is... I didn't min-max any gear. I didn't even tune this team. I basically grabbed whatever these champions were with whatever gear they had on them. And Claude was from the Leftovers team. Cold Heart, I did have to change her gear. That's not true. I did have to change her to Destroy gear. Lorn, we will see his gear in a second here. Skimfos, Allure. So there you go. There's the first place we can use this champion. And like I said, pretty much decent overall. We'll hide that. Okay, so here is the Fire Knight 25 team. And you can see, yes, once again, our good friend Skimfos in the lead. There's no good aura, but no one else even has an aura. So just to not get that stupid response out there, we have this team. Now, this Skimfos is a little bit different than the one I used in Scarab Boss. He's got a little bit more survivability along with the other 4. And this is not a speed group by any means, but it does give you a kind of idea. We're on stage 25. It does give you an idea of how you can use Lorn as part of a team, especially if you don't have a lure. That's the biggest thing here, is we don't have a lure in this team. We have a reasonably accessible rare champion. She's a void rare, but I mean, most people usually end up finding a Cold Heart. You've got Skimfos is probably the least accessible in here because he's void affinity. And we have Lorn, who's magic affinity, epic, all epic or less team. So no legendaries, no Lissandras, no Allure, which is kind of that linchpin champion. A lot of people think if they don't have Allure, they can't do this stage. And what we're going to get here is we're just going to get a team that's going to work together to get through these fights. You've got Ugo, who's going to be able to put block debuffs, but more importantly, he's going to have that decreased defense and heals. Those are both important things we have. We have Claude, who's going to give us the increased accuracy. He's going to give us a speed boost. Who's going to give us a shield, which is going to help us heal up. So this gives us some opportunity to heal because we have those leech debuffs that as we're hitting, we're healing up. So the whole thing combined in between, supplementary heals until Ugo comes back around. Just for your information on the builds, like I said, this is the two builds, Lorn's and hers are the same, and Cold Heart's are the same as the previous video. And Skimfos is the same as I had him built before, except for I put him in an HP chest, so he's more survivable. I would say maybe Claude's a little bit min-maxed. I did take away some of his gear from when I did the leftovers video, but he still more or less is kind of in that same world where he's pretty beefy. Though I wouldn't call it endgame gear by any means. And then Ugo is she's in my gear that I use for Hydra. So it's decent gear. It's pretty good, but it's not this crazy endgame. And you can see the heals combined with the leech, combined with the shield, just keeps us alive, even though we've got, essentially 3 attack-based champions who are pretty squishy. So I don't want to keep going through this. We're just going to keep going through the same stuff here. We'll get to where we get to the boss, and that'll kind of give you an idea. So here we are at the boss, and the big thing is you've got 12 hits now. It's a little bit difficult, but you do get the 4 hits plus his 3 hits, which is very nice. And then the most important here, we get that decreased speed. Now, unfortunately, I didn't have Skimfos lined up. I needed his turn meter decrease on round 2, or else Cold Heart would die or he would die because there'd be too many attacks against them. But I didn't need Cold Heart, so Cold Heart comes in, starts that reduction of turn meter, and from there we're off to the races. And the 3 of them combined do an admirable job, as you can see here, of just continually reducing that turn meter without that allure, who is like an auto win in this sort of stage once you get to this point. Also, some things to note: if you are not stopping that shield from closing, you have a decrease. You do have a heal reduction on Lorn. Now, Cold Heart has it as well, but more importantly, if you don't have the Cold Heart, Lorn does have that decrease. Heal reduction. There's a decreased crit rate, which is really nice from Claude, which if he does get a hit, it's going to reduce the amount of incoming damage potentially. We have the decreased attack from Skimfos, and we have the leech to help you guys heal up when they are hitting the boss again. So we have kind of all the buffs we need from this team to help us survive in case of resistance, in case that boss, and I have tested this when the boss did get a turn, and it was irrelevant. We still were able to survive with a decreased speed, of course, also from Skimfos. So in this particular case, not sexy. It's 4 minutes and 44 seconds, but it's a Fire Knight 25, epic or less team, not in crazy gear, and able to get through it. So this is where Lorn's going to be useful. We're next going to go into final thoughts on this, so I'll let you watch that, the final thoughts on Lorn, and we'll just kind of leave it at that. But just so you know, there is a home for him in a team if you need that turn meter reduction ability, and he brings some other debuffs that are going to be very helpful for you in an AoE, which also can be potentially very helpful for you in this game. All right, here's our infographic on Lorn the Cutter. This is kind of how I think his build is going to be best suited for the majority of you out there. Sets, perception, speed, accuracy, immortal, regen, anything to keep him alive. And then having that secondary, I was really tough on the stats goal. I believe speed and accuracy are the must, right? You want him at a proper speed to go a couple times to one, be properly tuned. So typically that's over 210 speed. If you get him a little more speed, that's all the better. And that accuracy at 350 is going to get you through most of the content of the game that you're going to use this champion in. You can probably get away with 250 depending on the content, 220, but as high as 350. So I put that in there depending on where exactly you feel you need this champion to get through. Resist, crit damage, I put a secondary. Obviously you want to be able to still let this guy do some damage, so you can put him in crit damage secondary, get crit damage, but not at the sacrifice of other gear. I would crit cap him, make sure he's 100% crit rate. Defense secondary for survivability. HP 45,000 plus for survivability. Attack 4,000 plus. I didn't put that as a primary focus just because I feel like it's more important that he's alive than he does damage. So if you can get that 4,000 plus attack, if you can get more while getting all the other pieces, a way to go. And then as for Blessing, Cruelty seems to make sense to me. It's going to give you a chance to decrease the defense of the opponent while you're going through runs. It's just a simple, easy one for him to be a part of to help with that. And you can see the gear I used was just a little bit of speed, a little bit of accuracy. I also used some Defiant gear just for survivability that you could argue is another set you could add to this list. And I kept him with that little that neck with the shield set. What does that call that? I don't even remember what they call them anymore. I'm lost nowadays. So anyway, there'll be a link in the comments where you can get this infographic. But there we are, the infographic on Lorn the Cutter and kind of what I envision as his final build. My final thoughts on Lorn: he's a little bit bland, he's a little bit plain, but and the fact that he's an attack champion who does mediocre damage. But if you remove the attack and you put in your mind support with secondary damage, he's actually very useful in cases where you don't have other champions. This turn meter reduction, 4-turn cooldown, but it is at 100%. Very nice to have, very strong potentially for you. You also have leech and heal reduction. Fire Knight, very useful. Just about any place leech is actually very useful in keeping your team healed. The heal reduction, a little less needed. It's a little more common out there, but still something that if you don't have another champion bringing it in, he's going to be very useful for you. I mean, Spirit Affinity, if nowhere else, the Spirit Affinity Potion Keep, he's going to bring leech and heal reduction against that boss. So mid-game players will be able to use him to get further along in that keep, even probably at level 50. And then he has this, which is a multi-hitter, and he can heal himself, and most importantly, because it's a multi-hitter, it's going to help you get to the boss quicker. Now, I will say that I did not put him in Giant Slayer, and I think it's just because the other two are single hits. So he really is only getting 5 total hits in a cycle, and this is a 4-turn cooldown. So you maybe could argue that I call it a push. I went with War Master for consistency because I'm not using him in Clan Boss. If I was using him in Clan Boss, I probably would have pushed him over to the Giant Slayer side for more potential over in a sustained fight. But either way, not a sexy champion. Probably not a champion that most of you will need, but it is a champion that some of you might need. And just the knowledge that he's there, he does the job that you need. Probably going to be a Vault Dweller for most of you, but for some of you, it might be that answer to get through certain areas of the game. Those are my final thoughts on him. What are yours? Do you have a different thought on him? Am I missing something? I know that he can synergize his heal reduction with other champions. That might be a use for him, but overall, I just think that there's probably better champions to put your resources in most cases, unless you're desperate for the turn meter piece. But let me know how you're using them in the comments down below. And most importantly, of course, be safe, be kind. We'll see you in the next video.